Congo has been rent by ethnic strife, civil war, and exploitation of resources. The bloodiest conflict since World War II has claimed the lives of 4 million people and displaced millions more. While peace has formally been declared, fighting, rape, and torture continue to take place.
Congolese live on 1 meal a day. They are working like 10 hours in a field doing heavy labor. In rural areas, 80% of the population does not have access to safe drinking water.
1,200 people die every day in the Congo from preventable disease, violence, and malnutrition. Action Against Hunger has been active in the Congo since 1996 and has succeeded in reducing starvation, assisting more than 400,000 people with nutrition, water and sanitation, and food security programs. But this is only the beginning.
We are working with beneficiaries to increase agricultural output, creating groups where they can look at developing a little bit further.
Action Against Hunger's campaign to end starvation in the Congo is the next step in turning the tide against hunger, starvation, and prevention.
Some of the old houses have gone, others are being torn down. Unemployment and poverty, though, remain.
We were assured by the city administration at that time that it would be cleaned up.
And it's still here.
It's still here 45 years later.
homelessness in the U.S. A new report says homelessness among children is at its highest level ever, with one child in every 30 without a place to call home. The report by the National Center on Family Homelessness said that nearly 2.5 million children in America were homeless at some point last year.
By the Annie E. Casey Foundation shows the number of children living in poverty increased to 23% in 2011. And New Mexico is the worst state in the U.S. when it comes to child well-being, with more than 30% of children living in poverty in 2011. Zach, these are pretty shocking numbers. I mean, what factors attributed to this jump in percentage of children living in poverty?
Well, it's really it's basically the hangover sort of from the Great Recession. But before the recession, about 1 in 4 children were living in poverty. So it's not like there were really terrific childhood poverty stats in the United States beforehand. But we see it creeping up, even though formally the recession ended in 2010. We really didn't have the economy contracting. It's actually been growing very slowly for several years now. And the problem is who it's growing for. It's growing for upper middle class people and for wealthy people, but people at the bottom of the totem pole are not seeing any gains, and in many cases, we're actually seeing things get worse. So, and this is obviously really well pronounced in the issue of childhood poverty. Our safety zone.
Yeah, this is our sanctuary right here. They're just ripping it out from under us. They told us, I'll say maybe 2 weeks ago, probably a little less than that.
Living here is hard because we don't have running water or electricity. The people here are nice.
Some place just to lay my head because I know I don't have no family out here.
They're doing, good. Kind of hooked up.
I don't know what the other campsites look like, but this
We're quiet. Everybody takes care of each other. Looks out for each other's things. They don't steal from each other. Like it's kind of like a little dysfunctional family.
You hear the birds in the morning, they're chirping. And it's so peaceful and so quiet and so beautiful here that it's a hard thing to leave here.
We have a lot of individuals that are using and abusing narcotics within the area.
While people may
Troops in Iraq, their job, of course, is to complete the mission. Their hope is to come home. For some, the journey back is full of setbacks and unwelcome surprises. For some, they wind up homeless. A small number of Iraq and Afghanistan vets are turning up homeless these days. They're veterans just returned back. Maybe they live even near you, living on the streets. Tonight, you're going to meet one of them. There are two things National Guard Corporal Joe Ricaldo never dreamed he'd see: the sun setting over Iraq, and the sun setting over his '98 Plymouth, the car he now calls home.
I never thought that after the ball was dropped, you're out here in this parking lot. I never thought I'd be here.
The long road to get here, a parking lot in Jones Beach, New York, began 2 years ago in Iraq. So you were in this lane here?
Yeah, actually, in that top piece, in that top turret.
Joe was the gunner in this Humvee when his vehicle took a sharp turn and flipped. His body was nearly crushed underneath.
I just remember I couldn't move anything. I couldn't breathe. I was bleeding. I just felt blood all over me, my face. And I squeezed out the words, better get a medevac fast, because I thought that was it.
Joe suffered traumatic brain injury, broke his back, all his ribs, and shattered his left arm. He was unconscious for days.
They told my sister they wouldn't fly her out there. I wasn't going to make it.
But to the surprise of his own doctors, he survived. Over many months, doctors pieced him back together, using metal rods and screws to fuse his spine and metal plates to hold his shattered arm together.
So you're not metal, probably build a small Eiffel Tower with hardware in it.
Today, every step hurts, but Joe remembers when he could run on this beach for miles.
Me and my friend used to go 8 miles that way.
Joe can't lift more than 10 pounds, so he couldn't go back to being an auto mechanic. Instead, he took a job with the National Guard patrolling Penn Station in New York. He says he lasted 6 months before landing in the hospital again with back pain and a bone injury. What he had coming in was $218 a month from a disability check, so it wasn't long before Joe, at age 50, ended up homeless.
One in 6 people, including hardworking men and women, suburban families, and young children, are struggling with hunger. Tonight, over 50 million Americans won't have enough food to eat by days end.
The face of hunger in America is not the homeless guy. Turns out the face of hunger in America is a single mom. It's grandparents raising babies. It's the elderly. It's the infirm.
So they are working 2 jobs. They're living on the edge, and they're trying to feed their families. So they have to choose between paying the mortgage or feeding their families.
I do have children that will come into school some days, and for whatever reason, they didn't eat breakfast.
A child simply cannot focus if they are hungry.
These kids, they're not able to get a subsidized lunch.
And they rush to school Monday morning to get breakfast.
Poverty and hunger is something people are ashamed of. No one wants to eat chips than you can a bag of potatoes. You can get a lot more soda versus a gallon of milk.
That food isn't really getting into the cells. It isn't really nourishing them at all.
Children are eating a lot of empty calories because that food is cheaper to purchase.
The knowledge of what food is healthy and what isn't, and what's real food, like the fruit, the vegetables, the grains like lentils and quinoa and beans and rice, that's real food.